Hi and welcome back. In today's tutorial we're going to talk about a lovely topic, sound. The game looks nice so far, but you don't hear anything yet, and that makes it a bit boring. The second issue we've noticed is that the game is really hard. You barely manage to catch any apples unless you get lucky. So the next step is to add different difficulty levels. That means the game should start off easy. The apples will fall at longer intervals at first, and then get faster over time as the game goes on. Alright, let's jump into our scene. To add sound, we'll need a few notes of the audio type. Here they are. There's another audio type down here called positional audio. The difference is that with positional audio you can place the sound source in the scene. That's useful for effects like having sounds fade out when they're further away, like for enemies for instance. For today, the regular audio source is fine. What we also need is an audio listener. The audio listener is basically our ears in the scene. Wherever it's placed, that's where the game will hear from. Like a microphone. You need it for positional audio, but also for normal sounds. So let's add an audio listener. It's typically placed as a child of the camera. In our case, it doesn't really matter since we're not using positional audio, but we'll do it anyway. Just a good habit. Next, we need two audio nodes. I'll go ahead and create two. We'll name one caught apple sound and the other missed apple sound. Now we need sounds for them. Let's head over to the asset store. Search for audio and just pick two. I'll use this simple beep sound for the missed apple. And for catching an apple, we'll use this checkpoint sound. Alright, to actually play those sounds, we need to update our script. In the B script, we'll add two new lines under the properties. Right below floor, we'll add catch sound and fail sound. These will now show up in the UI. In the B script section, scroll down. You'll see them at the bottom. Now we just drag and drop the audio nodes we created into those slots. There and there. Let's go into our function. We already have two, caught apple and missed apple. In those, we check if the corresponding sound is set, and then we call play. Do the same for both. And let's test it. Everything works pretty well so far. Now let's add some background music. Same system, we add another audio source and then grab something from the asset store. Let's use this one. Just drag it in. But here's the difference. This music should just play continuously. It's not tied to any specific event, so we enable autoplay and loop. And now the music will just play in the background permanently. Alright, let's get to the last step. We'll take care of the difficulty now. We'll control that by adjusting gravity depending on how many apples have fallen. So we start with low gravity and increase it step by step each time an apple falls. First, we create a new function. Let's call it update difficulty. That function reads the number of caught and missed apples and adds them up. And we call this function every time we want to update the difficulty, so after every fallen apple. That means we call it in both caught apple and missed apple. Now comes the important part. How do we actually set the gravity? We'll use a new API, the project API. Because gravity is a project level setting, there's a function for that called gravity. We insert our value into that call. So we calculate a difficulty value, which will be 1 plus the total number of fallen apples divided by 10. That way, gravity increases by 0.1 for each additional apple. And since gravity pulls down, we'll use negative values. So type in minus difficulty. Also, in the project settings, make sure your gravity is set to -1. You can find it under the physics settings. Alright, let's try it out. Okay, that's a bit better, but it still gets very hard very quickly. A big part of the problem is probably that apples are spawning way too fast. Remember, we added something like that in the spawn controller. There's a frequency value and it's probably still too high. Let's take a look at the spawn controller. We'll lower the frequency. Let's try 0.5. That means 1 apple every 2 seconds. Still a bit too hard. Let's lower it again. Try 0.3. We can also tweak our script. Maybe change the difficulty scaling to 1 divided by 20, so it ramps up more slowly. That should make it more manageable in a test scenario. Yeah, that feels fine. Alright, that's it for this tutorial. In the next one we'll cover publishing, because right now the game only runs locally. We want others to be able to play it too, so let's see how we can get it into a store. See you in the next one!